Welcome back to Behind the Smile, a place where we get real about what it truly means to struggle, to cope, and to eventually, deeply heal. If you're watching this, chances are you've already done some incredibly brave, soul-shaking work. You've faced the thing. You've fought the battle. You've chosen courage over comfort, and that deserves a moment of quiet, internal recognition. Before we go any further, just pause and give yourself a silent thank you for the sheer effort you've expended just to get to this point. We spend so much time, myself included, and certainly the broader cultural conversation, talking about the moment the healing starts. It's the stuff of movies and self-help book covers, the epiphany, the rock bottom that leads to the rise, the big decision to change. It's often framed as a singular, dramatic event, a moment of crossing the line where the before ends and the after begins. We're taught to look for this finish line. The world tells us, once you get over it, once you conquer that struggle, you'll be happy and everything will be fine. You'll be whole. But what happens the day, the week, or the month after you cross that finish line? That's what we need to dive into today, with all the nuance and honesty it deserves, because I promise you, the finish line is an illusion. It's a beautifully crafted myth that sets us up for confusion and unexpected pain down the road. This video isn't about overcoming adversity. It's about navigating the incredible, sometimes messy aftermath of profound change. It's about what comes after the applause, when you're left alone with the quiet reality of a new life. Let's focus entirely on this first massive misconception, the illusion of the finish line. The myth of the singular event. The common misconception is that healing operates like a switch. You were broken, and now, click, you're fixed. Or perhaps more gently, that it's like a marathon. You train, you run, you cross the line, and then you rest. The story is a dramatic arc with a clean resolution. But our inner lives, our psychological reality, simply do not work that way. The moment of breakthrough, that initial closing of a difficult chapter, is absolutely real. It might be when you finally set a crucial boundary, when you leave a toxic relationship, when you decide to seek therapy, or when you simply manage to get out of bed on a day you thought you couldn't. The flood of relief that follows is intense, it's light, it's hope. It's a genuine feeling of having dropped a 1,000-pound weight you didn't realize you were carrying. This is the immediate post-healing euphoria, and it is exhilarating. In that moment of release, we naturally project forward. We expect that all the old problems have vanished. We imagine a straight, upward trajectory of peace and joy stretching out before us, uninterrupted. We think, "I've finally figured it out. I'm done with the struggle." And we believe, deep down, that we have earned this permanent, effortless peace. But this expectation, the idea that all problems should vanish, is precisely where the illusion lies, and why this initial high can be so misleading. It's the calm after the storm, but before the massive effort of rebuilding the house begins. When you've lived with a central struggle, whether it was depression, anxiety, grief, a toxic environment, or an addiction, that struggle wasn't just a guest, it was an anchor. It informed your identity, your coping mechanisms, your relationships, and your daily structure. Your body and mind became wired to manage that struggle. When the external or internal pressure lifts, there's a vacuum. The healing starts, and suddenly, the anchor is gone, but the ship still drifts for a while. The unforeseen drop. Why the high is misleading. What happens next can be incredibly disorienting. After a few weeks or months, that euphoria starts to subside. Not because you failed, but because that's simply what happens to intense emotions. They crest and they recede. When the high recedes, you can be blindsided by a completely unexpected wave, a return to feelings of emptiness, or a surprising surge of irritability, or even a sudden inexplicable feeling of fear. Your internal monologue screams, "I thought I was fixed. Why am I feeling this way again? I must have done the work wrong." This self-doubt is the first and most painful hurdle of the aftermath. The initial high is misleading because it's a reaction to a massive relief, not the sustainable reality of a new life. Think of it like a broken leg being set in a cast. The immense pain of the break is gone, replaced by the relief of stability. But the relief isn't the healing itself. The healing is the slow, internal, biological process happening inside the cast. You still have months of atrophy, physical therapy, and relearning how to walk ahead of you. In psychological terms, the euphoria fades, and you are left not with a finished product, but with the exposed scaffolding of your life. The healing moment cleared the brush, but now you have to look at the foundations. You have to ask, what old unconscious patterns are still running the show? How was the struggle actually serving me? This is a tough one. Sometimes the struggle gave us focus, identity, or even excused us from other challenges. Now that I have space, what do I actually want to fill it with? This is where the finish line narrative completely fails us. It suggests that when the struggle is over, your work is over. The reality is that when the initial struggle is over, your real adult work of conscious creation begins. Setting up for the unexpected challenge. If we are operating under the illusion of the finish line, we are fundamentally unprepared for the challenges that come next. We set ourselves up for disappointment and self-blame. For example, when an old trigger flares up a month after you felt healed, you internalize it as a regression. You think, I went backward. I lost all my progress. But what if that trigger flaring up wasn't a regression at all? What if it was simply the opportunity to apply your new, healthier tools? The old you would have crumbled. The new you notices the trigger, feels the discomfort, and chooses a different response. That difference, the choice, is the progress. If you believe in the finish line, you stop looking for tools, you stop showing up to your support group, and you stop practicing self-care because you believe you no longer need them. You mentally check out. And when the inevitable, gentle challenge of life appears, which it always does, you are caught without your shield or your map. The key mindset shift is to realize that the moment of breakthrough is not the destination, it's the launch pad. It's not the end of the war, it's the end of one major battle. It's the moment you finally stop paddling frantically upstream and realize you have the paddle and the ability to choose your direction for the first time. The incredible, sometimes terrifying truth of the aftermath is this: the most challenging part of healing isn't the fight, but the quiet evolution that happens after the victory. The fight was about survival. The aftermath is about thriving. Survival is often instinctual. Thriving is always intentional. You are no longer defined by the struggle, and that leaves a void. This void is where your creativity and your new life will bloom. But first, it feels like emptiness. It feels a little scary. It feels like you've been stripped down to bare bones. I want you to let go of the finish line idea entirely. Replace it with the image of a garden. Your struggle was like a dense, overgrown patch of weeds and thorns. Your breakthrough was the act of pulling out the biggest, most choking weeds. It felt amazing, but now the soil is still messy. It needs turning over, it needs nutrients, it needs new seeds, and it certainly needs constant tending. The work is different. It's now nurturing. intentional, and ongoing, but it is absolutely work. If you've experienced this drop, if you felt on top of the world after a breakthrough, only to find yourself confused and a little low a month later, I want you to know this: you are perfectly on track. That messy, turbulent feeling is not a failure. It's proof that you shed your old skin and now you're growing the new skin. The new skin is tender. It needs gentle care. We need to stop judging the depth of our healing by the absence of struggle and start judging it by the sophistication of our response to the struggles that still appear. That is the true measure of what comes after the healing starts. In the next section, we're going to talk about that turbulence head-on, the uncomfortable aftermath, and how to navigate the shifting sands of your new, evolving identity. In the last section, we dismantled the myth of the finish line. We acknowledged that the immediate euphoria of a breakthrough is real, but it's not the destination, it's the launch pad. Now, we step onto that launch pad and look at the landscape ahead. This is where things get truly honest and perhaps surprisingly difficult. This is the uncomfortable aftermath, shifting sands. If you've done the hard work, if you've faced your demons, set the boundary, or made the change, you deserve to feel settled. Yet many of you, perhaps even most of you, will find an unexpected kind of turbulence arises just as the initial pain subsides. This turbulence is not a sign of failure, it's a sign of profound, ongoing change. You're experiencing the psychological equivalent of an earthquake after a major dam has broken. The flood is gone, but the ground beneath you is still unsettled, shifting and reshaping itself. We're going to look at the three biggest, most surprising shifts that happen in this aftermath: emotional turbulence, the deep identity crisis, and navigating altered relationships. The surprising emotional turbulence. When you were deep in the struggle, in the thick of anxiety, depression, or a cycle of difficulty, your emotions, however painful, were predictable. You knew how you were going to feel on a Monday morning. You knew how you would react to a certain trigger. Your emotional system was running on a script, albeit a painful one. When the healing takes root, that script gets thrown out. And the first surprising thing that can happen is a wave of emotional turbulence that feels completely unrelated to the original wound. You might find a sudden, unexpected surge of anger. Where was this before? This anger isn't the rage of the past. It's often a righteous anger. Grief mixed with a sense of unfairness over the time lost, the opportunities missed, or the fact that you had to go through that struggle at all. This anger is a new, healthy expression of self-advocacy. It's your inner self saying, "That wasn't okay, and I refuse to let it define me anymore." Don't suppress it. Find safe, productive ways to move it through exercise, journaling, or loud music. Acknowledging this anger is a sign of freedom, not a return to volatility. You might also experience a startling return of grief. But wait, you've moved past the initial pain, right? This new grief is different. It's grief for the old self. You are mourning the loss of the coping mechanisms that, however unhealthy, kept you safe for a very long time. You are mourning the old life you lived, even the painful one, because it was known. We often cling to the known, even when it's hurting us. When you let go of that anchor, that familiar pain, a deep, quiet sadness can emerge for the life that might have been, or the time that you spent struggling. This is a crucial, necessary step. You are grieving the cost of your survival. Allow yourself to feel that loss with compassion, not judgment. The other major piece of turbulence is anxiety about the future. When your life was defined by a problem, your focus was narrow: just get through today. Now, the future is wide open. This immense, beautiful expanse of possibility can trigger intense anxiety. What if I fail? What if I slip back? What if I choose the wrong path? This anxiety isn't the old panic, it's the fear of growth. It's the discomfort of the unknown. Recognize it for what it is, the growing pains of a liberated mind. Your mind is no longer busy fighting the old battle, so it's looking for a new problem to solve. Gently remind it that its new job is to build, not just to watch for danger. If you are experiencing any of this, anger, new grief, or future anxiety, please know that this is not a sign of relapse. It is the complex, sometimes messy, beautiful sound of your emotional system recalibrating to freedom. Dealing with identity shifts. Who are you now without the burden of the old wound? This is arguably the most profoundly challenging and often unspoken difficulty of the aftermath. It's the moment you have to deal with the question, who are you now without the burden of the old wound? For years, your struggle defined you. It became a central pillar of your identity, your narrative, your conversations, and your self-perception. You were the survivor, the one with anxiety, the person who went through X. Now that the wound is healing, that identity is dissolving, and a huge void opens. This void can be terrifying. Some people subconsciously feel safer in the familiar pain because at least they know who they are in that pain. Stepping into a healed identity means navigating a completely uncharted landscape. You have to learn to introduce yourself to yourself. What are your new interests? What boundaries do you truly need now that you're not constantly in survival mode? What are your spontaneous desires? You may find that things you thought you loved, hobbies, friends, even career paths, were simply parts of the identity built around your struggle. When the core struggle is gone, those peripheral attachments can feel hollow. This requires conscious, gentle experimentation. Think of yourself as an explorer in your own body and mind. Try new things without the pressure of them becoming your new thing. Maybe you were the workaholic because you used work to avoid processing emotions. Now try being the person who reads fiction or the person who goes for long walks. The loss of the old identity can also bring an unexpected sense of shame or embarrassment about the past. As you look back with your healed mind, the choices you made while you were struggling might seem bewildering or frustrating. You might judge your past self harshly, but you have to practice radical self-compassion. The person who struggled was doing the absolute best they could with the resources, energy, and awareness they had at the time. You cannot judge your past self with your present-day wisdom. Your past self paved the way for the transformation you are living today. They deserve your gratitude, not your scorn. The identity shift isn't just internal, it's external. When people ask, "How are you doing?" you can no longer rely on the familiar, "Oh, I'm okay, just stressed, tired, coping." You have to genuinely answer. This new honesty, this new self, is beautiful, but it requires courage to step into it fully. The task here is not to find your old self, but to build your future self, brick by intentional brick. Navigating altered relationships. This is where the shifting sands can become deeply painful. As you change, the dynamics of your relationships must change, and not everyone in your life will be ready or willing to accept the new you. As your healing takes root, your boundaries become firmer. The old porous, easily crossed lines that you tolerated during your struggle suddenly become solid walls. This is a sign of health, but it will inevitably cause friction. People who were comfortable with the old you, the one who was perhaps easier to manipulate, or the one who always showed up, or the one who absorbed their own drama, will push back. They might accuse you of changing, which is true and it's good, but they mean it as an insult. Getting too big for your britches, not being fun anymore, being too sensitive. They are not pushing back against you, they are pushing back against the loss of the role you played in their life. Your healing disrupts their equilibrium. This forces a crucial, painful reassessment of your relationships. You will realize that some connections were built on the foundation of your struggle. Some friends only knew how to connect with you when you were both complaining or in crisis mode. As you grow beyond that, those connections feel empty, and they will slowly drift away. This is the phenomenon of finding your new tribe. You need to intentionally seek out people who celebrate your present, not people who constantly pull you back to your past. Look for people who talk about ideas, growth, and the future. Look for people who feel light to be around, not heavy. The hard truth is that some relationships, even family relationships, may need to be limited, redefined, or even ended entirely. This is one of the heartbreaking parts of the aftermath, but it's an act of deep self-love. You cannot carry dead weight forward while trying to learn to fly. Protecting the health of your newly healed self is non-negotiable. So, as the sands shift beneath you, remember this: the turbulence is natural. The identity void is an opportunity for creation, and the discomfort in your relationships is proof that you are prioritizing your peace.
We've established that the period after the initial healing is not a peaceful vacation. It's a necessary turbulent period of shifting sands. The euphoria has faded, the identity is dissolving, and your relationships are being tested. Now what? We move from simply navigating the uncomfortable aftermath to consciously constructing the life that can sustain your healed self. This is building new foundations, practical steps. Survival was about reacting to danger. Thriving is about intentionally building safety, joy, and resilience. You've cleared the wreckage. Now it's time to lay down the concrete. This requires 3 core strategies: conscious self-reparenting, developing a robust emotional toolkit, and finding your intentional community. Strategies for conscious self-reparenting. This is arguably the most powerful and transformative work you can do in the aftermath. If you grew up struggling with external circumstances or internal pain, chances are your core needs were not consistently met. Your inner child is still waiting for a gentle, reliable, and loving authority figure to show up. That figure is now you. Conscious self-reparenting means stepping into the role of the ideal parent for your current evolving self. It's about meeting your needs before they turn into a crisis, and doing so with unwavering kindness. The first step in self-reparenting is unconditional acceptance. The ideal parent doesn't love their child only when they succeed or behave well. They love them when they make mistakes, when they cry, and when they are messy. You must extend this same grace to yourself. When you feel a surge of that old anxiety, or when you snap at a loved one, your inner parent's response shouldn't be, "Why did you do that? You were supposed to be better." It should be, "I see you're hurting. What do you need right now?" This immediately shifts you from self-criticism to compassionate problem-solving. Next is establishing firm, gentle structure. While you were struggling, your routine was likely dictated by the struggle itself, avoiding certain places, masking pain, or fighting to just get through the hour. Now, you get to build a structure that actively supports your peace. This means creating non-negotiable standards for yourself, not as punishments, but as acts of love. Non-negotiable sleep. Does your inner parent allow you to scroll until 2 a.m.? No. They set a firm, loving bedtime that respects your need for restoration. Nourishment as respect. Your inner parent doesn't allow you to go hours without water or food. They gently remind you to put good things in your body because it is valuable. Rest without guilt. The ideal parent knows that rest is a necessity, not a luxury. They give you permission to nap, to stare out the window, or to simply do nothing. And they silence the inner critic that calls it laziness. Another vital element of self-reparenting is teaching yourself to feel your feelings. Many people who struggle learn to repress, bypass, or numb emotions. The inner parent teaches the child that all feelings are safe, valid, and temporary. When a challenging emotion arises, say intense shame, you don't run from it. You sit with it. Place a hand on your heart and say, "I see you, shame. It's okay that you're here. You don't have to stay, but I'm listening to what you have to say." This simple act of validation and presence slowly teaches your nervous system that you are now a safe space for yourself. Finally, practice self-soothing rituals. This is how you literally rewire your brain for comfort and security. Develop a sensory ritual that you can access when things get rocky, a specific scent, like lavender or cedar, a weighted blanket, a mug of warm tea, or a repetitive, calming physical motion like slow rocking or drumming your fingers. These rituals are your security blanket, proving to your inner child that comfort is always available and it comes from within. Developing a robust emotional toolkit. If self-reparenting is the philosophy, the emotional toolkit is the daily practice. When you were fighting the big battles, your tools were focused on crisis management. Now your tools need to be designed for sustained well-being and maintenance. The goal here is to interrupt the spiral. When the uncomfortable feelings from Section 2 arise, the unexpected anger, the fear, the resurfacing of a trigger, you need a pre-programmed, practiced response that automatically diverts the energy away from self-destruction and towards self-regulation. Your robust toolkit should include the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique. This is for when anxiety spikes. Name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. It instantly pulls your consciousness out of the future-based fear and into the present reality. It is a fundamental safety mechanism. The active acknowledge and postpone strategy. When overwhelming thoughts or old destructive impulses flood your mind, don't fight them. Fighting gives them energy. Instead, calmly acknowledge them and tell them you'll deal with them later. You might say, "I hear you, inner critic. I know you want to talk about all my failures, but I have to finish this task right now. I'll give you 15 minutes of journaling time at 7 p.m. This takes the urgency and power away from the thought and puts you back in control. The emotional check-in. Make it a daily ritual. Twice a day, set a phone reminder that simply says, "How are you really?" Rate your mood on a scale of 1 to 10 and try to name the 2 dominant emotions you feel. For example, 6 out of 10, feeling tired and curious. This practice builds your emotional literacy, which is the foundation of self-awareness. You can't navigate what you can't name. The physical release. Emotions are energy, and energy needs to move. If you are feeling stuck, anxious, or angry, your body is holding it. Your toolkit needs an immediate, non-negotiable physical release. This could be 15 minutes of vigorous dancing, 50 jumping jacks, or a quick, loud scream into a pillow. This is your way of honoring the energy that needs to move without projecting it onto others. The secret to a robust toolkit is practice. You don't wait for the storm to learn how to use the life raft. Practice these small tools when you are already feeling okay. They will be muscle memory when you actually need them. The importance of intentional community. As we discussed in the last section, your relationships are shifting. The final foundation you must consciously build is your intentional community. When you were struggling, your community was often based on shared trauma, shared gossip, or shared complaint. Now, you need a community built on shared vision and aspirational growth. You need people who can meet the new you and who are also actively engaging in their own growth journey. Finding your new tribe requires 2 things: letting go and seeking out. Letting go is the hard part. It means lovingly releasing connections that are safe but stagnant. People who resist your boundaries, who rely on you for their emotional regulation, or who constantly drag you back into conversations about your old story are inadvertently blocking your future. You don't have to announce it dramatically. You can simply allow the distance to grow naturally. Preserve your energy for those who lift you. Seeking out is the joyful part.
Look for community in places that align with your new self. A pottery class, a book club focused on philosophy, a hiking group, or a mastermind focused on a new skill. These communities are inherently focused on forward motion. When you join them, your identity is immediately framed by what you are becoming, not what you have overcome. An intentional community should be your reality check system. It's easy for the voice of the inner critic to feel like the absolute truth when you're alone. But when you share a fear or a doubt with a trusted, growing friend, they can gently reflect, "That's just the old story trying to sneak back in. Look how far you've come." That external validation is the anchor you need when your internal sands are shifting. By practicing self-reparenting, by equipping yourself with a robust toolkit, and by surrounding yourself with an intentional community, you are not just surviving the aftermath, you are actively creating a stable, resilient, and joy-filled new reality. You are laying the foundation for a life that is so secure you can handle any storm that may come, not by fighting, but by standing firm on the ground you built with your own two hands. In the next section, we'll talk about how to transform the painful evidence of the past into the greatest source of wisdom and purpose for your future.
We've traveled a significant distance together. We moved past the illusion of the finish line, navigated the shifting emotional sands, and deliberately built the new, stable foundations through self-reparenting and new routines. Now, we arrive at the most profound and ultimately most rewarding phase of the aftermath, embracing the scars, growth, and wisdom. The cultural narrative of healing often suggests that the goal is to reach a point where the past is completely erased, leaving a smooth, unblemished surface. It promises an experience of getting over it so completely that you are exactly who you were before the struggle began. This, however, is not true healing. It is a shallow, impossible standard. True healing, the deep transformative kind, is not about the absence of wounds, it is about the wisdom gained from them. It's the realization that your strength is not measured by how well you hide your history, but by the perspective and profound empathy your journey has forged within you. Redefining strength from shield to story. For a long time, you likely defined strength as your ability to endure, to survive, to keep going despite the pain. Perhaps you felt strong when you put on a brave face, when you never cried, or when you successfully managed to mask your struggle from the world. In the heat of the battle, that was strength. It was your shield. But in the aftermath, that definition of strength becomes a cage. Your healing requires a complete redefinition. Strength is no longer a shield, it is your story. The new definition of strength? Your strength is now the quiet, unwavering commitment to vulnerability. It is the ability to look at your history, the moments you are most ashamed of, the times you struggled most intensely, and say, "That happened, and look what I learned. Look who I became because of it." This means shifting your mindset around your scars. A scar is not a flaw. It is a permanent reminder of two things. First, that you were deeply injured, and second, that your body and spirit were robust enough to knit themselves back together. Imagine a beautiful piece of pottery that was shattered and then repaired using the Japanese art of kintsugi, where the cracks are mended with gold lacquer. The philosophy is that the piece is more beautiful and more valuable because of its break and repair. The breakage is not something to be disguised, it is part of its history. You are kintsugi. Your broken places sealed with the gold of your perseverance and intentional repair are the most valuable parts of your being. When you embrace the scars, you transform them from a source of shame into a source of honor. This isn't just a feel-good phrase, it's a powerful psychological tool. When a shame-based thought arises, you can counter it with the visible, undeniable proof of your survival and subsequent growth. The profound gifts, empathy, and perspective. The greatest, most enduring gifts of your struggle are profound empathy and deep perspective. These are qualities that cannot be taught in a classroom. They must be forged in the fire of personal experience. The gift of profound empathy. Before your healing journey, you may have had sympathy for others who struggled, but you now possess something far more powerful: radical empathy. You can look at someone struggling with the same anxiety, the same grief, or the same shame, and know in your bones exactly what that feels like. This empathy gives you an immediate, non-judgmental connection to the human condition. It breaks down the walls of isolation. You understand that pain is universal and that vulnerability is not a weakness, but the common language of courage. This allows you to show up in the world as a person who truly sees others, not through the lens of what they should do, but through the lens of what it means to be desperately trying to survive. This is an incredible power. Use it gently, use it wisely. The gift of deep perspective. Your struggle gave you a brutal but valuable education in what truly matters. You have been to the bottom of the well. You know what it feels like to have only the most essential things left. This profound perspective is a constant safeguard against the trivial concerns and distractions of modern life. You no longer confuse comfort with true joy. You no longer mistake status for meaning. You understand that a simple, quiet Tuesday without an emotional crisis is an unquantifiable blessing. This perspective allows you to savor small moments, to prioritize your peace above all else, and to ruthlessly prune away anything that does not serve your hard-won serenity. You now operate from a place of knowing what your baseline must be, not just guessing. This knowledge is your protective force field. Transforming your story into purpose. The final act of embracing your scars is the most dynamic, transforming your story from a painful history into a source of inspiration and purpose. Your struggle is no longer a secret burden you must carry. It is now a resource you can use. This doesn't mean you must become a motivational speaker or a public advocate, although you certainly can if that calls to you. Transforming your story into purpose is much more subtle and personal. It means that every single day, you consciously use the lessons you learned to guide your present actions. For example, the lesson: I learned the cost of never setting a boundary. The purpose: today, I will use that knowledge to respectfully and firmly protect my time, modeling healthy self-respect for my children or my colleagues. The lesson: I learned that isolation makes things worse. The purpose: today I will intentionally check on one person who seems quiet, offering a lifeline because I know what it feels like to need one. Your purpose is simply the conscious application of your wisdom in the service of your best life and the gentle support of others. When you tell your story, whether to a therapist, a trusted friend, or on a platform like this, you are performing an act of power. You are saying, I own this. It did not break me, it made me. This ownership is critical. It shifts the narrative from bad things happened to me to I am the hero of my own recovery. The beautiful result of this transformation is that it frees you from the eternal why me question. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me, you can move to the much more empowering question, now that this has happened, what can I do with the wisdom it forced me to gain? This section is a call to action to wear your journey openly and proudly, even if only in the quiet sanctuary of your own heart. Your healing is not a private victory to be hidden. It is a profound journey of human resilience to be honored. As you step into this space, you stop searching for your purpose and realize that your purpose was forged in the fire all along. It's not something you find, it's something you already are. We are now ready to move into the final phase, acknowledging that this journey, like life itself, is not a final destination, but an ongoing journey, a continuous unfolding.
We've reached the final, and in many ways, the most optimistic phase of this deep dive into the aftermath of healing. We started by dismantling the myth of the finish line.
We then navigated the uncomfortable shifting sands of emotion and identity. We built new, stable foundations through conscious self-reparenting and new toolkits. And finally, we embraced the scars, transforming our history into a profound source of wisdom and purpose. But now, what does life look like after all of that? If healing isn't a destination, and you've established your purpose, where does the road lead next? It leads to the ongoing journey, a continuous unfolding. The fundamental misconception we must permanently lay to rest is the idea that the opposite of struggle is a state of perpetual, effortless peace. That isn't life. That's an imaginary movie set. Life, even a beautifully healed and intentional life, is characterized by its cyclical nature. This final section is about recalibrating your expectations for the long haul, understanding the cycles, and cultivating the gentle, lifelong habits that sustain your evolved self. Understanding that healing is a cyclical process, not a linear one. If you picture your healing as a straight line moving upward, any dip feels like a terrifying failure, a complete regression back to before. We need to exchange that linear image for a spiral. Imagine a spiral staircase. You are always moving upward, but you are also always circling back over the same themes, the same emotional landscapes. You might encounter the same core fear you felt a year ago, but this time you encounter it from a higher place. The fear hasn't disappeared entirely, but your capacity to meet it has evolved. This is the essence of cyclical healing. The first time you encountered the fear, it knocked you over and you spiraled down for 3 weeks. The second time you encountered the fear, a year later on a higher loop of the spiral, it still made you feel uneasy, but you paused, used your grounding technique, reached out to a friend, and the feeling passed in 3 hours. The return of the feeling is not a failure. It is a test of your learned resilience. It's the universe giving you an opportunity to practice your new tools. You are no longer reacting to the cycle, you are recognizing it, honoring it, and choosing a healthier response. The distance between the trigger and your healthy response is the true measure of your healing. This cyclical understanding removes the crippling pressure of perfection. You don't have to be fixed forever. You only need to be committed to the journey, knowing that the dips are simply opportunities to deepen your practice. Embracing the spiral means understanding that old patterns don't die, they fade. They will whisper to you less and less often, but occasionally, in times of high stress or exhaustion, their voice will get louder. Your job isn't to silence them forever, but to politely decline their invitation. You will have off days, days where your motivation is low, your anxiety is high, and the world feels heavy. These aren't setbacks. They're simply days where your energy reserves are low. Treat them as a signal to rest, restore, and revert back to your most fundamental self-care practices. Cultivating lifelong habits of self-awareness and gentle self-correction. Sustaining the healed life requires shifting from doing the work to being the work. It means weaving self-awareness and gentle self-correction into the fabric of your daily existence until they become automatic. The foundational habit here is radical self-awareness. This means consistently asking yourself, what am I thinking, what am I feeling, and what do I need 3 or 4 times a day, even when things are going great. It's the constant monitoring of your internal ecosystem. You're not looking for something wrong, you're looking for subtle signs of imbalance, a slight tightness in your jaw, an unusual surge of irritation, a sudden urge to avoid a task. These small signals are your body giving you advanced warning. Ignoring them is how the old spirals used to start. The second core habit is gentle self-correction. When you notice the imbalance, your response must be devoid of judgment. This is the ultimate test of your self-parenting skills.
The old way. You snap at your partner because you're tired. Your inner critic screams, "You're a terrible, ungrateful person. You messed up your healing." This spirals into shame. The gentle self-correction, you snap, you pause immediately. Your inner parent says, "Ooh, that was not kind. You must be very tired or hungry. Let's apologize quickly, and then let's go sit down and check the toolkit. No blame, just correction and care." This habit transforms mistakes from catastrophic failures into data points. Every slip-up is an opportunity for learning, not for beating yourself up. You stop trying to be perfect and start focusing on being perpetually course-correcting. The moment you apologize, take a deep breath, and reset, you are practicing sustained healing. Your new mantra should be, fall down 7 times, stand up 8. Furthermore, cultivate a practice of wonder and gratitude to ground yourself in the present. When your mind tries to pull you back to the past or fling you into a future anxiety, a simple, consistent practice of noticing the small good things anchors you. The warmth of your coffee, the sunlight on a wall, the loyalty of a pet. These moments are not frivolous. They are the tiny, constant proofs that today is safe and you are here. Celebrating the continuous evolution and infinite possibilities. The most exciting part of the ongoing journey is the celebration of your continuous evolution and infinite possibilities. When you were struggling, your life felt small, constrained by the walls of your problem. Now the walls are gone. Your life is not just better, it is fundamentally wider. You have room to grow in ways you never imagined. Your healing has given you incredible psychological flexibility. You are no longer trapped by rigid thinking, "I must be X, I can never do Y." You understand that your thoughts are just suggestions, not commands. This flexibility allows you to embrace new roles, new skills, and new adventures without the paralyzing fear of failure. You have proven you can handle the worst. What's a little disappointment in a new hobby? Embrace the idea that you are not one person, but a series of evolving selves. The healed self you are today will evolve into the even wiser self you are next year and the year after that. You are not meant to land on one final, static identity. You are meant to be in a constant state of becoming. The power of the ongoing journey lies in the consistent, quiet acts of intentionality. It's not the grand gestures, it's the daily decision to choose your peace, to apply the tool, and to speak kindly to the self in the mirror. Your journey of healing has prepared you for the vast, rich, and unpredictable experience of living a fully human life. You've earned this space. You've done the work to build a life so robust and resilient that its only trajectory is one of continuous unfolding, growth, and possibility. So walk forward not with the fear of relapsing, but with the quiet confidence that you have everything you need. Your strength is not the absence of the struggle. Your strength is your unwavering commitment to keep showing up, gently self-correcting, and beautifully evolving one cycle at a time. The world is waiting for the next version of you, and I, for one, can't wait to see what you become.
We've arrived at the end of our conversation, but this is truly the beginning of your renewed journey. We've acknowledged that healing is a spiral, not a straight line, and that the quiet, ongoing work is the most crucial part. But the real question remains: why keep going when the going gets cyclical? Why commit to the gentle self-correction when the old familiar patterns still call your name? The answer lies in the undeniable accumulating evidence of your resilience. Hope is not a passive wish. It is an active belief rooted in observation. And I want you to start observing the powerful, tangible proof that the healed life is not just possible, but that you are actively building it right now. Hope in the aftermath is the realization that your future self is not a wish, but a certainty, built on the evidence of your past tenacity. Let's look at the evidence. Let's anchor this hope in real-life examples, both the grand and the quiet, that illustrate the profound, sometimes unseen transformation that happens when you commit to the ongoing journey. The quiet power of the unseen victory. Most people look for dramatic transformations, a career change, a massive weight loss, or a public declaration of freedom. And while those things are wonderful, the truest victories in the aftermath are quiet, internal, and often unseen. These are the moments where your new foundations hold firm. The 30-second pause. The old you, when triggered by criticism or stress, would immediately spiral into shame or lash out in defense. The chemical reaction was instantaneous and destructive. The new you feels that familiar heat rising, that old trigger pulling its cord, but you stop. You notice the tightness in your chest. You take one slow, intentional breath, applying your grounding tool, and you respond not from the pain, but from your intention. The real-life example. Sarah, who struggled with years of codependency and people-pleasing, had a colleague dismiss her idea in a meeting. The old Sarah would have immediately apologized and internalized the rejection for the rest of the day. The new Sarah felt the sting, but instead of apologizing, she took a sip of water, her grounding ritual, and calmly said, "I hear your concern, but I'd like to circle back to the data supporting my idea." The entire interaction took 30 seconds. Sarah's nervous system regulated itself in moments, not days. That small pause, that 30-second victory, is proof of a fundamental, lasting change. This isn't just self-control, it's a rewiring of your core nervous system. That 30-second pause is a mountain climbed. It's evidence that the gap between the stimulus and your response is expanding, and in that space, you are finally free. The choice to feel and validate. For many who struggle with depression or anxiety, the coping mechanism was to run from or numb difficult emotions. When sadness or anger showed up, the immediate reaction was panic or avoidance. The healed you honors the cyclical nature of emotions. When a tough emotion surfaces, that unexpected wave of grief we discussed, you don't panic. You don't try to fix it or fight it. You simply make space for it. The real-life example. Mark, who used work to avoid processing the grief of a loss, found himself crying unexpectedly while listening to a simple song. The old Mark would have slammed his computer shut, criticized his weakness, and buried himself in email. The new Mark recognized the cycle. He stopped working, gently said to himself, "This is the wave of grief. It is here. It is safe to feel it." He allowed himself 10 minutes to cry, without judgment, and then gently transitioned back to his task. He didn't lose the day. He simply acknowledged his humanity. The ability to feel pain without shame is not a return to fragility. It is the ultimate expression of your psychological resilience. This gentle acceptance is the active practice of self-parenting. It's the highest form of self-love, and it proves that the old need to numb is gone, replaced by the power of self-acceptance. The inspiring momentum of the intentional life. Hope also resides in the visible changes, the momentum you build as you choose your new path. These are the ways your story transforms into a light for others, simply by you living your truth. The new tribe, the new boundaries. We talked about the pain of shifting relationships. It is painful to let go of people, even those who held you back. But the aftermath provides you with a sacred responsibility to your peace. The healed you trusts your instincts, knows your worth, and intentionally builds a community that reflects your aspirational self. After leaving a deeply toxic friendship group, Jessica experienced months of deep loneliness. She felt ashamed for having no one to call. But instead of returning to the old group, she committed to her intentional community strategy. She joined a volunteer organization focused on environmental cleanup. She didn't instantly find a best friend, but she met people who valued action, respect, and contribution. Over time, she built 3 deep, reciprocal, and entirely new friendships. Jessica's example proves that intentional loneliness is a temporary price you pay for permanent self-respect, and that the pain of letting go always creates space for something truly sacred. Your intentional community is proof that you are the architect of your social world. You are choosing your own cheerleaders, and that is a tremendous power. The transformation of purpose. Finally, the ultimate expression of hope is when you realize your scars are your compass. You stop defining yourself by what you went through and start defining yourself by what you can now offer. The real-life example? David spent years struggling with an eating disorder and body dysmorphia. After deep healing, he didn't become a wellness guru. He became a high school woodworking teacher. But his purpose infused his craft. He realized his healing gave him incredible patience and an eye for detail, understanding that the most beautiful piece of wood is often the one that had to be cut and refined. He started every class by saying, "We don't try to make this wood perfect. We respect the grain, find the beauty in the knots, and work with the material we have." David's former shame, his constant pursuit of a perfect body, was transformed into a core teaching philosophy. He used the wisdom of his struggle to create a safe, non-judgmental space for his students. This shows that your purpose doesn't have to be massive or public. It's the quiet infusion of your hard-won wisdom into your daily life and work. Your final charge: choose the unfolding. This is where your power lies, in the quiet, continuous unfolding. You have proven your capacity for survival. You are now proving your capacity for thriving. This ongoing journey is not a chore. It is the greatest adventure you will ever undertake, the full, vibrant expression of the person you fought so hard to become. The most important thing to remember is that you are not alone in the messy aftermath. We are all moving through cycles. We are all learning to be gentle with ourselves. We are all celebrating those 30-second victories. So walk forward with the undeniable evidence of your resilience in hand. Be patient, be kind, and never ever stop honoring the beautiful, complex, and continuous evolution of your healed self. Thank you for being here, for showing up, and for choosing hope. We'll be here, behind the smile, supporting your continuous unfolding.